Welcome to Nonprofit Profiles. I'm Genevieve Riatort. I know that often it seems like homelessness and drug addiction are really big problems, and we wonder what can be done about it. Well, here today we have OPCC and the Safe Haven program, and they're going to tell us the kind of work that is happening right here in our city to address these complicated issues. John Messeri, Executive Director at OPCC, and Andy Schwick, Director of Safe Haven Program. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
So John, we'll start with you. Can you tell me a little bit about the history of OPCC?
Sure. Well, OPCC is a 50-year-old social service agency based here in Santa Monica, and we provide housing and comprehensive services, including primary health care, mental health care, transportation assistance, case management, and housing resources for low-income and homeless youth, adults, and families, battered women and their children, at-risk youth, and people living with mental illness.
Wow, that's a broad spectrum.
It is, absolutely.
About how many people do you think in a year whose lives are touched by the work of OPCC?
We serve about 5,300 unduplicated individuals and families every year at OPCC.
Wow, that's amazing. And I've seen the Safe Haven building, and I'm a little bit familiar with the program. But Andy, I'd love to hear you talk about the program, how it got started, and what kind of work you're doing there.
Well, Safe Haven is actually a generic term that was developed for new shelters for people who were not being served by more traditional shelters. I think there are about 140 Safe Havens throughout the country.
Oh,
and
wow.
OPCC took it upon itself to develop a Safe Haven on the west side. And the idea behind Safe Haven is that clients who have not done well in the traditional shelters, either for rules or regulations or for just having difficulty in their own lives in terms of showing up for appointments or whatever the case may be, particularly with OPCC, we have a lot of clients who have been in our other shelters and who have come to Safe Haven and have been successful. One of the reasons that it is successful is because the model is developed along the lines of being very high tolerant and with very low demands.
So is that the difference between a Safe Haven program and what you call a traditional program?
Yeah, and like I said, we are lucky enough to work with those clients who have not had a lot of success, and they come into our situation. We do have residents. We also have an outreach program, which is our day program. But we have fewer restrictions and we have fewer policies, and so many of our clients feel very comfortable feeling like they don't have as many things to do as far as their daily routine. And that's often been a problem for someone who's been on the street for so many years and is now coming back and kind of living or at least being a part of the community.
So it seems like you give people an opportunity to engage and to be engaged with wherever they're at, where they're ready, so that even if they're not ready to take all the steps that a traditional shelter would make, you still have an opportunity to engage with them and to get to know them and maybe help move them along the journey so that maybe a little bit later down the road they might be willing to accept other types of services.
That really in a nutshell is what it is, because we do meet clients where they are, and we talk a great deal about our pipeline, and that is, first of all, getting somebody into the process, through the intake process, getting them off the street, as I mentioned, either as an outreach person, utilizing our programs and our day service programs, as well as the residents in our facility. And the pipeline could consist of starting with engaging with one of our case managers. That could lead to our case managers working with them in terms of getting general relief benefits or even SSI benefits. It could then lead to a housing plan. Ultimately, our goal is to provide permanent supportive housing to all of our clients. Some are ready, and some are not, like you said. And so that whole pipeline idea is we always want to gauge where people are. We have a sense of what they're doing, and it kind of is up to them to determine what their pace is.
And it seems like that model would help to establish a lot of trust, so people don't feel like you're pushing them into something that they're not ready for.
And I think that's a real key component to what we do is they come in and we try to do an assessment and try to work with them, and it's really about their program. It's not unlike working with special needs in education. We have an individual service plan for each client, and that client is the person who's actually developing that plan and developing that program. And there is no set time, there is no termination. It's a matter of determining with the client exactly where he or she is and where he or she wants to go to.
And how does this program fit in with OPCC's greater mission?
Well, our overall mission, of course, is empowering people to rebuild their lives, and we do that in many ways. And as Andy's described, we developed Safe Haven really as a response to our other residential programs, people not being successful in other residential programs. And instead of blaming them and saying, why aren't they being successful, we ask the question, what are we doing wrong? What's wrong with the way we're delivering services that people can't be more successful? So we were very intentional in developing a program that really serves the people who've been out there the longest, who have been the highest need, in many cases the most vulnerable, who have been outside the system or disconnected. And I think the other thing that Andy and his team do very well, which is kind of a hallmark of OPCC's work in terms of our larger mission and philosophy, is really building a sense of community and participation. We have a very high level of peer participation in all of our programs, and we really believe in doing things with people, not doing things for people or to people. So that's important for us.
That's so unique. I love that approach of not looking to blame the clients about why they're not successful, but looking to see how you could help them be so successful. So thank you both so much for being on the show. And we're actually going to show our audience a few pictures of Safe Haven and OPCC so that you can get a sense of what it's like over there. Thanks again for being with us.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, and thank you for your work with Westside Food Bank.
Oh, thank you so much.
Some problems are just too big to ignore. But don't take matters into your own hands. With the help of a mediator, you can find a solution. Mediators are volunteer professionals who can help you resolve issues without the high cost of legal fees.
Wonder if he's single.
Hey, I saw him first.
Oh boy, here we go.
Call us or reach out on the web if you'd like to volunteer or donate.
Welcome back to Nonprofit Profiles. Now we're going to get the honor of hearing from someone who has actually been through the Safe Haven program and come out on the other side. We're going to hear from Felix, who is an alumni of the Safe Haven program. Felix, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And I just want to start by saying thank you so much. I really appreciate your willingness to talk about your own journey, because I know that's not always an easy thing to do, and we appreciate it.
Okay.
So tell me, how did you become a client at Safe Haven? How did you find out about it?
Well, originally, when I, through my journey, I was in Los Angeles for maybe 12 years, homeless on Skid Row. And one day I just decided, well, I'm not doing any good there. And I wanted to start finding out what was going on with me in my life. Walking away from businesses that I started. I started a couple of businesses, and they were successful, hard to get workers, and I had to do most of the work myself. So I walked away from that and, got homeless in the process. So I spent 12 years on Skid Row, and I decided later on, I said, well, something's wrong here. Just picked up and drifted. When I found myself, I was in Santa Monica. So I liked it. I was hanging out by the park, and one night I was asleep on the bench out there. And it was around 10 o'clock in the night. The sprinklers came on.
Oh no.
I was so tired, and I didn't feel I was getting wet. Next thing I saw, there was 2 police cars. And they said, hey man, don't you feel that you're getting wet? I said, well, No, what's going on here? So they said, well, there's a shelter down the street. It's called OPCC. So I'm under the impression that I was going to just walk into a bed or something. I got there, the doors are locked and everything. So I did the sidewalk until in the morning. And when they opened up the gate in the morning, I looked for engagement. I tried to engage. And I was taken in, and in the process, start looking after my mental health, and introduced to Edelman,
Okay, sure.
and trying to get well.
And Edelman provides mental health services.
Yes, and I feel good now. I'm doing real well. And later on, I heard about the Safe Haven part. At that time, it was like probably 10 or 12 members
Wow.
over on 7th Street and Colorado.
It's grown a lot since then.
Yes, since then they've grown a lot. So in the meantime, the building on Cloverfield was being built, beautiful building that's there. I didn't even know that I was going to be, living there for a while. So later on, I went to an anniversary of Safe Haven. I think it was the first anniversary.
Wow.
Yes, and right away I engaged into services, at Safe Haven. I qualified, and went through the intake.
And what kind of services did you get to use?
I used the outreach services. So later on, there was a cubicle ready, so I was in the pipeline for cubicle.
And that means a place for you to stay and
To
have your
stay.
own space.
Yes, and so that worked out. That's another medicine. Yeah, roof over the head.
Of course.
It's a great provider. Harm reduction, pretty good diversity, lots of participation from members. And I became, I'm pretty active. I'm always doing something. So took the peer support group, the advocacy group, and study and everything to help my peers, along. And I go out and do outreach, help my peers, come to wellness.
Help to bring people in.
Yes, yes.
Wow. So you are really able now to give back to other people who are in a situation like you were all those years ago.
Sure enough, I spent two years in the cubicle. In the meantime, I'm being active, cooking in the kitchen. Took some cooking lessons, even though it's in my background, but I had to pump it up a little bit.
Right, sure.
And
I understand you have a garden as well.
yes, we also have a Safe Haven community garden, which I facilitate, a stipend position.
And so do members get to participate in growing the
yes,
plants?
Yes, they come in, I help prepare the ground for them. I do most of the hard work because some of my peers, doing hard work is kind of difficult. And I'm pretty good at it. So I have the stamina for it. Yes, I prepare the grounds, and all I do is put the finger in and put the seeds in, and now we produce.
That's got to be a pretty empowering experience for the clients there to be able to watch something grow and to nurture it from the very beginning.
Yes, bring it to the kitchen and prepare it. Yes.
Oh, that's just wonderful. And of course, I'm especially interested in food because I know that Safe Haven gets food from our Westside Food Bank program.
Yes.
And I imagine the garden is a really nice supplement to that.
Exactly. I've had the opportunity also to help out going to the food bank and, bringing our staple into their kitchen. And sometimes there's compost, there's stuff to throw away. Bruce will call me or any one of the teams.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, we bring it in, to compost.
Oh, I had no idea that some of our
Yes.
waste was getting
Yes,
composted.
yes. Instead of looking at it in the dumpster, I'll just pull it out of there and make compost. And yes, it's pretty productive, the garden that we have.
That's
Andy
wonderful.
helps me out a lot, Kate, and yes.
Can you talk just very briefly about what the peer-to-peer experience is like?
Well, peer-to-peer experience for me, it's a powerful situation where sometimes it's a trust issue, being on the streets for so long, being hard to reach. It's kind of difficult for one to relate to a caseworker. So I would bridge the gap, helping out, because telling my experience, sharing my experience, sharing how I came about, that things work.
Right, and then they can see how far you've come,
Right.
and that you went from being in a position that they were in, and look at you now.
Exactly, exactly. So I do a lot of meeting in the community and helping educate the community also from stigma.
Well,
Yes.
that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your work. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And we are going to treat our viewers to a few photographs of you busy in your garden and other things that you do at Safe Haven. So that'll be up next. But thanks again for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And stay tuned and take a peek at those photos, and then come back with us for the last segment. Thank you.
Hey, Mom. Yes, I'm home. Saved you some dinner.
Plan now for a major earthquake. Contact the Santa Monica Office of Emergency Management. Don't be caught in the dark.
Welcome back to Nonprofit Profiles. I'm here now with Greg Gurman, who is a board member at OPCC. Greg, welcome.
Hi.
So tell me, how long have you been involved with OPCC?
Let's see, I think I volunteered there probably 12 years ago, you know, with my son, making some meals at Turning Point in San Michelle.
And can you tell us what Turning Point and San Michelle are?
Turning Point is a transitional housing program at OPCC. San Michelle is a shelter, kind of a point of entry at OPCC. There's 10 programs there, so those are 2 of them. And from there, I emceed a couple of events for them, and then you know, begged the executive director, John Masseri and Richard Hirsch, to let me be on the board, and then snuck into some board meetings, and they still haven't figured it out. If they see this, I might get thrown out. So this won't air, will it?
I think they may find out.
Oh, okay. Oh well.
But let's hope the interview goes well.
That's right.
So why were you so interested in getting involved?
Well, initially because it was a local organization. You know, I live in Santa Monica, and then as I got to know the organization better, what I saw was an organization that had 10 programs. You know, helping people with mental illness, substance abuse, domestic violence, homelessness, chronic homelessness, at-risk youth, a broad spectrum.
These are all the big problems.
All the big problems. But the way that they approach these problems is this holistic approach to social services, where they understand that homelessness is domestic violence is mental illness is substance abuse is at-risk youth is homelessness, and so on. You can't address one of these issues without addressing the other. So their rates of success are really high because of that. It's a sort of, like I said, a holistic approach to social services, and that I found really inspiring. So it's not, in addition to the clients that, you know, go through all of these programs, which are inspiring by themselves, it's the model that is practiced there that really got me excited, and I was desperate to get involved, because I felt like that I wasn't aware of any other kind of organization. I mean, there's lots of organizations that deal with these issues and do great work, but one that has this broad of a vision, and a vision that, you know, results in this kind of success is hard to find. And so that was inspiring to me.
Wow, so you were attracted to the idea that you really could make a difference.
Well, they were making a difference,
Yeah.
and certainly, and so, you know, to be part of that, you know, is exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's rewarding to participate in any way that I can like that. I mean, to make a meal is rewarding, you know, to meet these people is rewarding, but to work with the staff at OPCC is also rewarding. These are people that, you know, are really doing the right thing for the right reasons. So.
Wow. So that's inspiring. And how has it affected your family? You mentioned that your son volunteered with you.
Yeah, we've. I mean, that's a great thing. Anytime, as a parent, you can involve your kids in, the community is. You kind of look for those opportunities as a parent. So that's been part of the fabric of his growing up since he was 4.
Wow.
Every Christmas morning we get up before the sun comes up, and the first thing we do is we go to Turning Point and make breakfast.
Wow.
Initially, that wasn't the easiest thing to do with a 4 or 5-year-old, but now he knows that's what we do, and it's that's a great building block for him.
And how old is he now?
46. No, he's 15.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So I imagine it really affects his worldview and
I hope so.
appreciation
I don't know.
of.
He's a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
The best you can do is expose them to things
That's
and then
right.
hope that it rubs off a little
Cross
bit.
my fingers.
So I imagine over the years you've had a chance to see some clients experience transformations.
Yeah, you've talked to Felix.
Yeah. Well, he's a shining example.
He's a shining example, and there's many more like Felix. And one of the great things about OPCC is you'll find that the clients end up, running the place basically,
Right.
and it's extraordinary in that way. One of the slogans that's popular at OPCC is "We meet people where they are." And when you do that, I think of that as a parent too. It's a lesson in life in any relationship, whether you're helping someone on the street, or in your own family. If you're able to have the generosity of spirit and humility to meet them where they are, not where you want them to be, you have a chance to help them help themselves, and that's what OPCC is about, I think.
I love that model, and I love what John Masseri said about.
John who? John Masseri.
Yeah,
right.
remember that guy? I love what he said about what can we do to help people who are not successful become more successful.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, exactly.
Because I think it seems like OPCC really cares about making sure that nobody falls through the cracks. That
as best they can, and I think you're right. There's plenty of cracks to fall through, and this model of care that is practiced there, I think, ensures the best chances for success for those people. I think it's so, as a parent or anybody in any kind of relationship, when you think that if you're going to try to help somebody, but you're only going to deal with one part of their problem, but not deal with the whole person. And that's the same thing, I think, in our community. If you're going to deal with one problem, but not deal with all the problems that really are residual effects of that one problem, you're never really going to help that person with that one problem. So OPCC does that, and does it as well as any place that I've been able to find, and I keep looking.
I think they're stuck with you.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'll sneak into the next board meeting and see if they notice me.
So if you wanted to tell our audience just one thing, the most important thing that you think there is to know about OPCC, what would that be?
We need money, lots and lots and lots of money, and the West Side has lots of money to give. So I think that there's plenty of people that might see this show and can go to our website, opcc.org, and it's really easy to get involved in that way. What was your question?
I think you answered it. Thank you so much
You're
for being
welcome.
on the show.
Thank
and
you.
I'm just going to correct you because if I'm not mistaken, I think it's opcc.net.
There's a controversy there, but I'm going to stick with opcc.org.
Okay.
Or
well,
opcc.com. If you put OPCC Santa Monica, you'll get it.
Okay. Well, fair enough.
Let's have a wager.
After the show, we'll get online and
Okay.
see how we can find OPCC.
Okay.
But in any case, thank you so much
Well,
for
thank
being
you for
here.
having
Thank
me.
you for your work with OPCC. And thanks to you, our audience, for being with us. We hope that you will get involved, whether it's opcc.net, opcc.com, or opcc.org. We hope that you will find OPCC and get involved in whatever way you can. Thanks again for being with us on Nonprofit Profiles.